All right, welcome into another edition of the NL West MLB Draft Preview Series. Today we are going to be previewing the San Francisco Giants. And the Giants, Tyler, for as many teams as struggle to draft in the first round, the San Francisco Giants just continue to knock it out of the park. And I know that they've had some early draft picks in recent memory that has kind of helped lend to some of their success, but it's just big name after big name after big name, and I can't imagine some of these guys. Some of these guys are going to be mainstays in the middle of that lineup. Patrick Bailey was last year. He comes alongside Joey Bart, who might end up being a first baseman. Either way, they've got two accomplished college catchers there that I think we both believe could catch and hit at the next level. Hunter Bishop was tossed into there, absolute batted ball monster in 2019. He projects to be a solid corner outfielder despite a slow start in the minors. And then you mix in like Heliot Ramos and Brian Reynolds over the past few years. They just continue to seem to knock it out of the park. This year, we know that the Giants like to reach for character, clubhouse, good culture pieces. And as you can see, they kind of tend to sway towards the college player. So with that in mind, 2021 is here. They're kind of in a situation where they could wait and see what college pitcher lands in their lap, but also there's a couple of college shortstops or outfielders that make sense. There's going to be some high-profile high schoolers that make sense at that 14th pick. Where do you personally see them going, and kind of give us an idea of what the Giants might do?
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Giants have been college heavy the past couple of years. Heliot Ramos is the only prep guy that they've drafted with their first pick in the past 5 years. This year could just be the same way. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if they go college guys, and they have a couple of guys that we have heard their name or have linked them with a couple players. Jordan Wicks is one of them. He's a guy from Kansas State. Really, it's kind of a high floor, low ceiling kind of a guy. It's a fastball, 91, 94. Mixes in a really good changeup that could honestly be a 70-grade pitch at the next level, and you throw in a curveball and a slider that could work out really well for the Giants. And they're a pitching development team that's really turned it up as of late. You know, you got Kyle Harrison from last draft who's turned into an absolute monster. Nick Sweeney could honestly be another good arm that they had from last year's draft. So, oh yeah, NC State guy. I love that pick personally.
You got the Wolves.
Absolutely. But, I mean, another guy that we talked about with like a college hitter, Sal Frelick, could also make some sense here if he does fall into the last of the Giants. Mentioned it before. He's a smaller guy. Bat speed's there. You play center field. He has the arm to potentially move to left field or even or either corner spots, honestly. And he can run. So they're both guys that come out with character. So either one of those guys would probably fit the mold for the Giants perfectly here.
I love the Sal Frelick pick. I think Sal Frelick is the perfect fit, the perfect fit for the San Francisco Giants. We spoke with Sal in one of our MLB draft conversations alongside Cody Morissette, and just the most polished, mature kid. Really gives off the vibe that he's a clubhouse leader, elevated that Boston College program into what it is today over the last 3 or 4 years. I just think Sal Frelick, with as spacious as that ballpark is in center field, and given the kind of the cherry on top of his plus arm, Sal Frelick would be such a perfect fit for center field for the San Francisco Giants. And I don't know if he makes it that far. I think Seattle at 12 and Philadelphia at 13, and even the Mets at 10 and the Nationals at 11. I think there's some landing spots for Frelick that make a lot of sense, but it wouldn't shock me given his limited ceiling. He's not going to hit a lot of home runs in Oracle Park. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I think he's a perfect fit. I think Matt McLain makes some sense. They do have Marco Luciano coming up, but Luciano, I don't know if you want to put all of your eggs in that basket with Brandon Crawford moving on. I'm assuming he's moving on after 2021 or shortly thereafter, 36, 37 years old. As far as the college pitcher goes, I really can't. They don't have a lot of pitching in their organization, with the exception of Sweeney, which we talked about, and some more fringy guys at the top. I really like the Gunnar Hoagland fit. I don't know if Hoagland makes it to 14 again, but you're talking about a top 10 guy. You're talking about a guy that was going to be a top 10 pick. Tough top 3 college arm in the class behind maybe Rocker and Leiter. I could make the argument that he's right behind Leiter, to be honest with you, as the number 2 arm before he did injure his elbow. So, I mean, here's the thing. A lot of times these guys get drafted in June or July, and they sit out the rest of the year for innings limits anyways. You're not going to have Gunnar Hoagland until probably July of 2022. So you're losing out on maybe 3 months of development minus that spring training. Hoagland really, for me, screams a great fit for the Giants. I think he fits a need. He checks a lot of boxes. And he's probably, as long as the arm comes back healthy, going to be a reasonably quick mover for the Giants, who are looking to spend and expand that window a little bit. So I think Hoagland makes a lot of sense. But yeah, for me, Frelick is the penultimate perfect fit for this organization, and we will see what happens. If they do go the prep route, Harry Ford makes a lot of sense. Harry Ford blew us away in his conversations with us in his pre-draft interview. Again, a guy that I could see going as high as 5, a guy that I could see going as low as 16. If he falls into the Giants' lap at 14, I think that's a money pick. So there's a number of guys that the Giants have here. It's certainly a wait-and-see type of a year, and if previous drafts are any indication, it would not surprise me to see a high-profile, big-name, high-upside guy fall into their laps. And I know you mentioned Jordan Wicks. I'll bring him up as well. Another guy just really popped off the film in the pre-draft conversation. Quiet kid, he's blue collar, gets his job done, all business, and he really does kind of seem like an anchor to that entire staff over at Kansas State. So I'll throw it over to you for one last kind of final statement. Any other sleepers, any other kind of later down the board guys that you could see making a little bit of sense for the Giants, or you think that pretty much covers it?
I mean, Colton Cowser might be another guy that you could probably throw into the mix here. I know you love Cowser as a pick to go in somewhere in this range. He's been linked to like the Mariners. I think the Phillies were in on him at 1.2. So that was another name I wanted to throw out into the fold for the Giants here.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like the Giants. I mean, if I were a betting man, if I were still in Reno, I would be putting my money on a college guy that falls into their lap. And 14 is kind of the sweet spot for that. So I think another guy, I mean, Matt McClain, if Matt McClain is there at 14, I just don't see any possible way he gets by the Giants. I think that makes a ton of sense. He's in their backyard. He's been in their backyard since he was 16 years old. You know, Brian Bridges and company are very familiar with him. So that'll do it for the San Francisco Giants. I think we pretty much covered every college player that could go in the first round. Giants certainly in a wait-and-see mode. Tyler, as always, I appreciate you joining me for these MLB Draft Team previews. Looking forward to the draft just 2 weeks away. We will talk to you again soon with one more NL West preview.